Torah is the mile from the Medidas Vakbolas of Eilemas, how they are for the Irish and Mislabshim Eilemas, how they Nimshochim Alidei the Kav. And we saw that the Torah was Lamaila and wasn't Nimdad Alidei Kav Hamidah. And therefore was able to be mitzad the Gilui Oirais upon him, which we discussed at Tamnei in Eilemas, that Torah was the same Lamaila as Lamata. Mitzad the Kavana of the Atzmus, and the Torah is Tafkir Lamata. The Mitis Inin B'Torah is Tafkir Nishomis Begufim Haraya B'Olam Hazeh, and that will be the ultimate discalus of Liosid, which is amazing that once again the Nishomis will be Begufim, and there'll be the Inin of Gilui HaTorah and Gilui HaTainu Ga'achmit to the Nishomis Haraya Tafkir Begufim Po Lamata. Mashenkin in the from Eilemas we saw, well, even Torah how it shaped to Eilemas, we saw it was only Gilui Oirais, but nonetheless it had the milah of being beyond Medida v'Hagabola. Mashenkin the Oirais and Mislabshim Ba'Eilemas, they are between Midu Gvul, the Sefer Tachlis. We saw that they have a beginning, shenimshochim alidei hatzimtzum. I mean, everything has a beginning. I mean, anything which is nimshach b'klal, we can say has a beginning. But what it means that they have sheyesh lahem tchilo means that the tzimtzum is ma'alem u'masu, or al kaponim, the tzimtzum makes a hefsek, a godel, between the Ayin Sefer, the Atzmas, and the Gilui Menelemas. Therefore, they begin with the Tzimtzum, they begin in an Oven which is already shite the beginning, in the normal sense, which means Sof as well. The beginning implies a Sof. So therefore, that's the pshat, that there's a hefsek in the Gilui Atzmas, alidei the Tzimtzum, and therefore there's a inyan of a measured beginning which leads to a limited hamshocha. Well, if Mashin is Boel be inyan ad vi ad beklau. We brought the two pirushim in the word ad. What ad can mean, ad up to a certain point or level, and including what it is. The ad v'lo ad beklau, or ad can mean only up to the thing, but not including it. In other words, just barely touching it, but not embracing it or enveloping it. So we saw that those were the two different inyonim of oilis, which are mamish shai to ishtaushlas, or oilis which were lamaylam ishtaushlas. The be'giluim the say the ishtaushlas ad v'lo ad beklau. I'm sorry. The Behagilim to say the Shtaushlas ad viad beklaus. That in the Seder of the Revelations they are in Shtaushlas. So then, when you are reaching an upper madrega, you also embrace that madrega, because everything is be'erach one to the other. Each level is be'erach, and therefore, if you've reached the higher madrega from your lower madrega, which has assisted you to reach that madrega, as we had barichas earlier, and therefore try to say that you can also foresee, even though you may not have, to use the expression, finished all your work, you may not have completed everything you have to do to be masik the madrega ho'el yoina, but once you get into the kiruv to the madrega al yoina, since it has an error to your madrega where you are anyway, so therefore you can foresee and you can embrace the madrega elyoina. You can foresee what you're coming to, and on the contrary, what you've got up to now adds and assists and is moisif into your progress into that madrega elyoina. So therefore, it's called ad viad beklau. It's ad which includes the ad includes the whole madrega to which you have reached. Mipnei shehein bo erech ze lo ze ukeshaimid bo madrega achas Harihu be'erach hamadrega cheretz. Hein ma shelamata mimeno, v'lo hein nikra oimeid, v'hein ma shelamayla himeno. So the Rebbe says that you're able to stand, as it were, on the madrega where you are now, and you can see, or you can literally have a hasogya in the madrega to which you are coming. So he says, Hein ma shelamata mimeno, v'hein ma shelamayla mimeno. He said both. You're able to see what was lamata from where you're coming from now. You're able to see what you've come from. You see where you are now, and you see where you're heading for. And so he puts, if you can see where you've come from, mashalamata mimenu, that means what's underneath you, what was before. He said, Lochei nikra oimeid, therefore you're called a oimeid. V'hein mashalamayla mimenu, and you can also see which is above you. So I asked the question, why does he put in the parenthetical remark that you're called a oimeid, because you can see where you come from. You can see what is lamata mimcha. It would have fitted also to say that if I can see where I'm going, lamayla, I'm also a oimeid. Why is it medactic to put it in the first file where you can still see where you came from, which is lamata mimcha, therefore you're called a oimeid. So we can see that due to the continuous process of simcha be'odah, in yonim, then there's a certain cloudy state of hasoga, which no doubt will have to be shaken slightly out of all the makablim around here. So it's poshut why the Rebbe writes that, because what is an oimeid? What have we defined always as oimeid, and the differences are mahalik, the opposite, or the antithesis of a oimeid, of somebody who's basically static. He's a stander, compared to a goer. A goer is a mahalik. So it says to Rebbe, what is the way that we know if you've gone or you haven't? So he said, if you still have a shaykhus to where you've come from, then you haven't gone. Because gone means that you're no longer in that place, klau. When do I say that you've been hoilech mimochem ploini? When you've gone and you can't see it, you've gone away from it. But if you're still close to mochim ploini, and how much more so if you still have a foot or a heel or something in mochim ploini, so that you can still see it and be masik, what you're talking about, then you haven't gone from there, but you're still shaykhus. Part of you is still shaykhus l'show. And so the diktuk is that even if you can still see where you came from, then you're standing. You haven't really moved, even where you've left. In other words, you've left, but you haven't, because you're still really shy to that level and that madrega. As if you're still shy to it, then you haven't gone. You're not called a mahalik. And therefore we find that the malachim are called, that's the pshat where we see, and we say every day in davening, we say that va'yamideim lo ad le'elam choch nasan v'lo ya'a v'yer. We say that the malachim halalu kol malachav, and then we say after that, va'yamideim lo ad le'elam and choch nasan v'lo ya'a v'yer. That we say that the malachim have been stood in their place forever. They've been given a fixed supply chok. They'll never really be able to go beyond it, how to call it, to pass over it. Or to maybe use the English expression, they'll never be able to surpass it. So, everybody, myself, at least my linguistic judo is at least falling on some ears. So therefore, that's the concept of the malachim. Now, why would we say that? The malachim have continuous. It's brought down in Tanya Perek Ayin, and the Rebbe brings it in the Maimon and the Chasanim. The Rabbi, before he said the learning to the Talmidim, he used to say Milsa de Bedi Chusa. He used to say it like a joke, remark, and they used to laugh. And then he used to start learning. The Alter Rebbe brings it in Tanya Perek Ayin. But over there he brings Rova, and the Girsa Bios in the Gemara is Rabbo, but the Alter Rebbe brings Rova. Because otherwise everybody was saying, well, he never teaches us some of what, he just talks about all sorts of other inyan. However, what we see is over there, that the Milsa, the B'dichusa, the Alter Rebbe brings it over there, that it opens up the mind and the heart, and brings them to a union of Simcha, Ba'avidosei u'b'toirosei yisbarach. It brings to Simcha in the service and in the Torah of Hashem, and that is the ultimate. That's one of the ultimate aims of our whole way, is to dafke be b'simcha, and that simcha itself opens up further gateways and further profundities in the understanding of the Inyan. So you hear Ratzon, we've already been yaitzed now with the Milsa de B'dichusa, and also with the miles of it, and all that it's supposed to achieve. Whenever the Malachim are called Oimdim, what l'chari, you can have a kasha, and you can say, why should the Malachim be called Oimdim? Harei, they have continuous new hasogas the whole time. Dafki, because they're not limited in any physical world, and they don't have any helam ve'estem mitzad gufim, even though they do have gufim, but they don't have helam ve'estem mitzad their gufim v'chulei. They're just gaining new hasogas the whole time. So why do we say vayam mideim lo ad le'elom, that they're standing there for forever, and it's a fixed thing? Chok nozen lo yaveh. And so the answer is because all of the hasogas of the malachim are be'erach zelazeh. They never get into the inyan of hasoga bilti erach one level to an idea. And therefore, even though they're going up the whole time, and it's in an even from Yahalaluch Haselo, it's in an even from without hefsek, without limit, but it's all the time. It's like an amazing concept of treading always on the same spot. It's like, you know, how do you call it? What's the expression? No. Soldiers, that they don't move forward, but they move up and down. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have never had any military experience, so you don't know any of the military terms. So I had military experience, but I can't remember the terms now. I remember doing that quite a lot. But anyway, what's it called? Marking on the
March in place.
Huh?
March in place.
No, the special work. Anyway, yeah. So what happens is that the Malachim are this amazing concept. It is. It's written in the mind from the Rebbe Maharaj. That this amazing concept that they're all the time going, but they never really to use the expression in Yiddish, der gehen Zach. They never really go beyond what they really are, what their essential limitation is, and therefore they're going the whole time. The reason being that each hasoga is be'erach to the coming hasoga. And therefore the Rebbe says, how do we know that you're not a goa? How do we know that you're a oimid if you can see where you came from? What you're going to, forget about. If you, at any point where you are, you know where you came from, then you haven't left. As if you haven't left, then you're never really going to go in a way which will be ein array. You'll never really leave where you started from. Which means that all the tremendous aliyahs that you have all have some sort of connection one with the other, which means that you're really staying within the same basic measurement. And therefore the lochei nikra oimed. It's well known. I heard from Rav Nachum on several occasions that he said the brackets in the Rav Rashab's are always like the shamenat. They're the cream of his thinking. So when you see how he put that in with unbelievable alacrity and clarity, that at that point. When they go upwards, it's also be'erach zelah. Yeah, it's also be'erach zelah zeh. But how do we know that he's anoimid, that he can still see where he was? As if he can still see where he was, and he never moved. And therefore he's called anoimid. And so the same is also ben akeh l'mashal amayla himenu. V'lochein al yodei hu yodea amadrega ho elyena. Where he is now, he knows the madrega ho elyena. In other words, he may not have a soga mufuretis in all the protein of the madrega. He's got to go up there, but he already knows what is awaiting him. Ulazais במדרגה זו, הנה בכל בחינת המדרגה שהעמיד, הרי הוא יודע גם מהמדרגה העליונה, שיש לו קץ וסייף, because the madrega elyoina has also got a case via a safe. Now, what does he mean that even where he is now, b'chol kol mashe b'chol b'chinu madrega she'oimeid? What does he mean by that? That's for sure that in every hasoga elokis there are different madregas within that individual hasoga. There are different profundities, different levels in the hasoga gufa. Remember, you might say, well, now this malach has got a, let's say he's in Olam HaYetzirah, and another malach is maybe in a low madrega in Olam HaYetzirah, or he's maybe in Olam HaSiyah. Maybe we'll suggest that this malach has got a much deeper hasoga. He's on a more profound inyan in the zah. So the Rebbe said that doesn't really alter the inyan. It just means that he sees more bechinas in that general bechina where he is, and alidei what he sees those bechinas. On the contrary, that helps him to see even more higher to where he's going. But he's able to see that, and he's able to grasp the madrega elyoina. Why? Because all of them have ketver safe. All of these madregas are limited. They all ultimately come to a end. V'zeu commission is bo'liyu b'pirus Rashi or b'pirus l'chol tiklor or isi k'eitz. Right. What did Rashi say over there? Rashi said k'sha'imei b'emtza ha'olam. Remember we bought for Rashi in the Gemara, not Rashi in the posik of Rashi in the Gemara. That k'sha'imei b'emtza ha'olam al derech moshel hari hu roya ba'ein sichloi sheyesh k'eitz. Now, it could be that he doesn't actually see it with the Gashmistika eye, but where he's standing now, and he's come to appreciate the whole geography of the world, and he appreciates all the different principles in what he's seeing now, as he's able to picture in his mind, the end of the world, literally the farthest point that he could possibly reach if he were to be given the opportunity to walk that far. And maybe he could, or at least to progress in some way. And therefore, now it could be that he may not, mitzad a technical reason, be able to reach that case. Or that doesn't mean to say that he couldn't reach it mitzad etzem possibility. It is that mitzad a sibas, he can't. But mitzad the etzem fact that he's in this world and he's masik the inyanim of the world, he could reach it. And if I said the Rebbe, well, that's what we want to masbir. Who roya be'ein sichlish yesh kate. V'hainu, k'sha'imid b'madrega achas. That's how it is in Gashmias, as it were, b'teich ha'olam. But if we return to the Nimshal, how it is in Ruknias, k'sha'imid b'madrega achas, when somebody who's in Inyone, which have erech one to the other, then yoideya sheyesh kate gam l'madrega elyoina. Now that's a chiddush. In other words, not only that he knows that there's a case to where he is now, and that's allowing him to look into the Madrega Elyoina, because where he is now is limited, well, that allows him to look into a higher Madrega. He's also able to see, and he knows that even the Madrega Elyoina will be limited. No matter how much he'll work now, and he'll reach the higher Madrega, even there, it'll be limited. In other words, that the passage into the higher Madrega won't lead him into a dover which is Ayin Arech to where he is now. Therefore said the Rebbe, Hari hu yodea gam madrega l'sheish l'keitz for b'seiv. So commotion is bull, he'll be pure Rashi. But pure l'chol tikla. Oh, I'm sorry. V'hainu. Then after I think I maybe read over twice the same line. No? שיש לקייץ בסוף. זהו כמו שנסבור ליום פירוש רש"י, בפירוש לכל תיקלו, דשקיימת באמצע העולם, yes, he knows, והיינו כשאם מדרגה אחת, יודע שיש קייץ למדרגה עליינה, אף שלא הגיע אליה עדיין, even though he didn't reach it, but he knows, והיינו לפי שהן בחינס גבול, and therefore they are בארץ זלה, each one of them is a limited inyan, and since they're limited, be'etzem, then even the one will be bigger and more profound compared to the other, but they'll always have a certain erech one to the other. Aval, Schön. That's the pshat in Rashi. The whole tiklo ro'isi kates. Everything that has some form of a end and a limit, I must be able to see the end, even where I am now. That was the chiddush that we brought out in Rashi, and a similar thing we found in the Ebenezer. But that was the Iker Kila Nakudas Akretz that we found in Rashi. That where I am now, I can see the kates. Tiklo ro'isi. Since I'm in a thing which has a tikla, then I can see kates even in that which is beyond. Where are we? Avos et Rabbi. Bo'ire shalamayla shtaushel Shahem b'chinas bligvul. But then we went up into the Hasoga, how it is in Gan Eden, what that's the Ha'or of Atzilus in Brio, or for that matter in Yetzirah, but it's all the Ha'or of Atzilus. What Atzilus is Mamish Elakus, and that's Ayin Ha'arech Legabi the Oiras of Biyah. That was all the Oiras which are beyond the Shtaushilus Al-Kaponim of Biyah. And therefore, said the Rebbe, once you get Shahem b'chinas bligvul compared to Biyah, then they don't really have any, the madregas which are in those oiros, every madrega is incomparable to the other madrega. Like we spoke at great length, that even in the oiros amakifim, it's shy madregas, but those madregas are like called tzadik nichve michupos, each one is like a makif, and ein aroik legabi the other. Mishum ze, hein b'chinas ad v'loy ad b'klal. That's the second inyan. All you can do if you're on one madrega, you can just touch the other one, but you can't get into it. You can raise yourself in a way that you'll be worthy, some way to get to that, but you'll never really know what it's all about. You'll only be just touching the edge of it. And that's the pshat. Ad v'loy ad b'klal. Canal. Lezois. B'chinas zu, b'chol madrega she'oimaid eino shayach loima she'roya b'chinas kates v'seiv the madrega v'elyoina. It's not shayach to say that, because the madrega v'elyoina is mamish ein aroich l'gabi where he is, and he's not able to see b'klal, the safe of it. He's not even really able to see the what you might call the beginning of it. He can only just touch it mibachutz. He's not beklaging a erech to that. Uba madrega zu shehu eimaid harihu b'chinas hasoga etzloi. Ela she'hasoga ein hasoga mamish b'chinas yesh. Ela hasoga mufshetes b'chinas ruchnias kanal. V'hainu shegam k'moi shemasig eso inyan harihu b'chinas ein seiv. Now here's the chiddush that we saw that the Rebbe brought when he was being masbir, the necessity to lose the hasoga which you have here in order to go up to the hasoga elyoina. You've got to be mamish misbatel from all that you've had. So the Rebbe was masbir that when each level in these madregas, how they are in the Ein Seif, in the Oyer HaBligvul, or these levels that there are in the Oyer HaBligvul, their inyan is that one type of hasoga cannot be compared lagamri to the other type of hasoga, and that means that you've got to lose your whole previous form of being masig in order to be masig the elyon. That was just the whole question of these two maimorim, that there has to be that bittul between the two stages. And so the Rebbe says that means that even though you reached the madrega elyon lagabi where you were before, and that means that you've lost your whole form of hasoga that you had before, and so now for your hasoga that you're being masig in this new oilam, or this new level, is not a normal hasoga compared to what you were used hasoga before. Now we saw it was a inif and hasoga loy b'derech hasoga compared to where you were before. Okay, even if it was the same type of usage of hasoga, once again it's going to deal with the same basic materials. It's going to reach the same basic inyanim. And therefore the Rebbe's point here is it's not only that the noisei of the hasoga, the toichen, what you might call the content of the hasoga, is going to be completely different, but the way you're masig, by definition, must be also. completely different. And therefore, now that you're standing where you are, you're also not being masig in the way that you were used to being masig, but in your earlier stages of life, as you might say. It's another form of hasoga altogether. And therefore, we have to say it's a hasoga mufshetes. It's not a normal form of hasoga. Where he's standing now, Hari, b'chinas soga tzloi, ela hasoga ain't hasoga mamish b'chinas yesh. Because normally hasoga is a concept of yesh. As we know, the famous klal, hasoga is yesh. Yeah, ani masik, but that's he's a Matthias, and he takes it into his, literally into his wardrobe. He's got it now, as part of his being. Ela hasoga mufshetes, b'chinas ruchnias, canal. Well, that's what the Rebbe said earlier, that every new hasoga will be a hasoga ruchnias completely, that what you were masik before was like gashmias. What you're now being masik is like ruchnias. I mean, they're completely opposite one to the other. In other words, what you were being masik in this previous level, or oilam, where you were, that was like hakshoma, that was like materiality, and now you've got up into a whole new form of hasoga. And he said that's a hasoga which is abstracted, how do you call it, mufshetes, meaning transcendent. Oh, that's the word. It's transcendent completely to your way of being masik before, and it's in a form of ruchnias, because normally hasoga has to bring things down into concrete terms in order to be masik, and therefore it's got a certain gashmias about it. Therefore you need often misholim in order to even have the faintest idea of a hasoga, because you've got to somehow or another gashmiize what you're learning in order to understand it. Although if you've gone into a whole new world, then your whole way of understanding hasoga is a hasoga ruchnias, meaning it has no kesher with the type of physicality that you had before in the hasoga. And so there was the Rebbe, it's another form of hasoga altogether. V'ainu shagam k'moisha masig, so inyan harihi b'chinas ein seif. In other words, that even the way he's masig the Inyan still remains ain't safe. In other words, it still remains absolutely unlimited, but he's been allowed to grasp it in a certain way. So I thought, how can that be? I mean, it's a very amazing statement. That you're given the permission to be masig, but even how you masig it, it still ain't safe. So if it ain't safe, then he can't be masig it. Was it a pshat? Ma piyuv was it? And he said it's a hasoga ruchnias, it's a hasoga mufshetes. So yesh leima b'zeh shnei eifanim, that we could say a little bit built on what he said earlier, a little bit built on our own power to sort of be mispeinen b'dvarim eile. Mi'akal el hakovid is we see that it's brought down in Tanya at the beginning of Perek Hey, that when you're masig Inyan, and if you remember, there's all these lashonos that who masig makif is a musag, v'musag mukaf b'sichlei, v'achrei zeh hamusag makif b'sichlei, v'zu musag mukaf musag makif b'sichlei. Yeah, it goes back and forth. The altar that you're makif the musag, and then when you get into it more, then the musag is makif alecha. And even after you've already been masik, it's still mukaf, but you're also makif, also with your seichel. So it remains mukaf umakif biyachad. That's a famous yichud, as he calls it over there, shein kamoyo. So what's this inyan that even after you've been masik, let's say, that there still remains this inyan that the musak is makif you. Yeah, where easy inyan there. Because you can't be, that what you're makif or masig, or that's a hasoga bedorah. You've taken what you can, but to a certain extent it'll always be makif you, even after you've been teifus the whole thing. What teifus means that you've limited it and literally put it into your soul. You put it into your pocket, as we said before. It wasn't the scene that it always remains makif alechem. Oh, that's the Yishlema, that in every hasoga, amitias, particularly as he brings the hasoga immediately after that, you're masik inyonim in Torah. I feel the halachas from the Gemara. But there's always inyonim in Torah that you can't be masik. If I'm a masik amiti, I am a masik, when he's wrestling with hasogas in Torah, then he grasps them and he takes them in with his power and he brings them into his hasoga. But at the same time, there's a sensitivity and a realization, and even what you might call a hargosha al yodei, that there's ain't safe in this thing that he's not being masig. There's always this, even though you're being masig, it still remains l'mayla mimcha, but you've been given a certain permission to be masig on your level of a BMS. Now that's in every union. I feel how the union in nigla to come down mamish boiv and hakbola lefi the koich hasoga of the odom. Nonetheless, there's a certain elokus in the musag which you'll never really be masig. It'll always remain beyond you, and that's what the famous Torah from the Baal Shem Tov. You guys are familiar with it, because I already quoted it about I don't know how many times in the Shiurim. That's a famous Torah, the Baal Shem Tov, on the Pasuk. Sos hanechi al imrosecha kemoitzei shalol rov. The David HaMelech says that I'm full of joy and simcha on your Torah, on your words, imrosecha, like the finder of a great and immense treasure. So the Baal Shem Tov said, was it a pshat kemoitzei shalol rov? Moitzei means you walk along, you find a huge treasure. So you're just going along, and all of a sudden you found a huge treasure, which means you're not prepared for that huge treasure. You don't have a big semi-trailer with you or something to drive away all the treasure, all the massivity of the treasure, and you don't even have a cart or even have something with you, a few kettles or pots or something to fill up, with all the treasure. All you can do is you can stuff some of the treasure into what you have, in your pockets, in your hat. The man takes whatever he can, but he's got to get moving. He can't stay here. He has to go. So whenever you find a Shalom Rov, said the Baal Shem Tov, there's always a source of in that simcha. There's a tremendous tubrochenkai from everything you're leaving behind. In other words, when you're moitei, then you have on the one hand simcha, what you have filled up all your pockets. On the other hand, there's this deep inner tzar for everything you have to leave behind. And those are the Indian, what we could suggest, that even though you're masig, it still remains ain't safe, meaning that in every hasoga in Torah, there's a trace of that. Over here in Hazar Ilam, we've come into an Indian which be'emes is ain't safe. And so, of course, you remain on the Shama Mugbelis. And so you've been given now a new type of hasoga altogether. In other words, it's not just the hefta, it's also the gavra. It's not just the etzem dova is a new union. Your hasoga is new as well. After pikein, it remains alecha ein safe. Your hasoga tells you that you haven't really been masig anything. In other words, it tells you, hadang tarevisha. For those was, I have been masig of there's this old treasure that you're leaving behind because of the ain't safe sheba dova. And therefore comes out that what you are masig is al tzad chesed. It's all because of the Eibster gives us tremendous chesed that you should be masig. That's one derech. That's a derech haniris. That's a miskabel. And the other way we can say, what's our soga ruchnias? It's mavur. In certain Turshim, it says, was it a pshat? A soga mufshetis.